Ever wondered what it's like to face death head on? I've been through some of the most dangerous, heart-pounding experiences you can imagine, and today, I'm taking you with me from life-threatening encounters to adrenaline-pumping escapes. These are the 5 most dangerous experiences I've ever had, and trust me, it gets crazier with each one. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Number 5. Surviving a sandstorm in the Sahara Desert. It was supposed to be an epic adventure across the golden dunes of the Sahara Desert, but nothing could have prepared me for the chaos that was about to unfold. We were in the middle of a camel trek when the wind picked up. At first it was just a light breeze, but within minutes it turned into a full-blown sandstorm. Visibility dropped to 0. The sand was whipping against my face like shards of glass, and my group got separated in the chaos. The camels were spooked, and the guide was shouting directions that no one could hear over the howling wind. I was completely alone in the middle of the desert, surrounded by an endless sea of sand, trying to cover my face while desperately searching for shelter. The feeling of isolation and helplessness was overwhelming. I honestly thought I wasn't going to make it out of there, but after what felt like hours, I finally spotted the distant outline of a tent and crawled inside for safety. The storm lasted for hours, and by the end of it, I was shaken to the core, but grateful to be alive. Number 4. Dangerous rapids in Costa Rica. If you're an adrenaline junkie like me, you're probably no stranger to whitewater rafting, but what I experienced in Costa Rica wasn't just a thrill, it was pure survival. We were rafting down the Pacuari River, which is known for its intense rapids and scenic beauty. I was pumped, expecting a wild ride, but the river had other plans. Midway through, a sudden storm hit, and the water level rose dramatically, turning the Class 3 rapids into terrifying Class 5 monsters. The raft was being tossed around like a toy, and within seconds, we were flipped over. The force of the water was unreal. It pulled me under, and I was getting thrashed by the currents. My helmet slammed into rocks, and I remember struggling to gasp for air every time I resurfaced. I was dragged downriver for what seemed like forever before I finally managed to grab hold of a boulder and pull myself out. I was battered, bruised, and completely exhausted. To this day, it's the closest I've ever come to drowning, but you know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Number 3. Face to face with a wild bear in Alaska. Exploring the remote wilderness of Alaska is something I'll never forget, but not just because of the stunning landscapes. While hiking through Denali National Park, I came face to face with one of the scariest creatures on the planet, a grizzly bear. I had read all the safety guidelines. Stay calm, don't run, make yourself look big. But when you're actually staring into the eyes of a 600-pound predator, all that advice goes out the window. The bear was massive, and it was only about 20 feet away from me. My heart was racing, my legs felt like jelly, and every instinct was telling me to run. But I knew that would only trigger a chase, so I stood my ground, praying that it would lose interest. It sniffed the air, growled, and took a few slow steps toward me. I've never felt more vulnerable in my life. After what felt like an eternity, the bear finally turned and lumbered off into the woods. I didn't move for a solid 5 minutes, just trying to process the fact that I had come within inches of becoming its next meal. Number 2. Escaping a raging fire in Australia. Australia is known for its beautiful beaches, but it's also notorious for its deadly wildfires. I was in New South Wales during one of the worst fire seasons in recent history. We were staying at a remote cabin in the bush when we got an emergency alert that a wildfire was headed straight for us. The wind was fierce, and the fire was spreading faster than we could have imagined. Within minutes, the sky turned an eerie orange, and the air was thick with smoke. We had to act fast. The roads were packed with cars trying to escape, but the flames were closing in on both sides. It was absolute chaos. I'll never forget the sight of towering flames in the rearview mirror as we raced to safety, choking on the smoke that was seeping into the car. The heat was unbearable, and we were one wrong turn away from disaster. Somehow we made it out, but seeing the devastation afterward was heartbreaking. The land was scorched, homes were destroyed, and wildlife was lost. It was a sobering reminder of just how fragile life can be. Number 1. Skydiving accident that nearly ended it all. This final story is the one that still gives me chills to this day. It was supposed to be the ultimate thrill, my first time skydiving. I had always wanted to feel the rush of freefall, so I signed up for a tandem jump in New Zealand. Everything was going smoothly at first. The plane ride up was exhilarating, the door opened, and I leaped out into the vast blue sky, but at around 5,000 feet, things took a horrifying turn. The main parachute failed to deploy properly. I felt a jolt as my instructor pulled the chute, but instead of catching the wind, it got tangled. We were plummeting toward the ground at terminal velocity, and I could feel the panic set in. My instructor was working frantically to cut the main chute and deploy the reserve, but seconds felt like hours. Finally, with just a few hundred feet to spare, the reserve chute opened and we slowed down enough to make a rough landing. I walked away from that jump with a newfound respect for life and a heart that wouldn't stop racing. It's an experience I'll never forget and one I hope to never repeat. So there you have it, the 5 most dangerous experiences I've ever had. From facing wild animals to escaping fires and surviving parachute malfunctions, these moments have pushed me to my absolute limits. But here's the thing, sometimes it's these brushes with danger that remind us how precious life really is. If you enjoyed this adrenaline-packed ride, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more crazy adventures. And hey, let me know in the comments, what's the most dangerous experience you've ever had?